Hello, everyone. Welcome back to The Olive Orchard, a podcast about nothing important really. I'm just here with stories, advice, chats, and lighthearted ramblings for your background entertainment. I'm Autumn Olive, crochet fashion designer, and thanks for tuning into my little radio show. I hope you're doing all right. I started learning German again just for fun. I started learning it a little bit when I was like 10, and I don't know, it's just feels like firing up the dusty furnace in a back corner of my mind. I'm using Duolingo. It's nice because they give little bite-sized 5-minute lessons, so you can just kind of come and go as you please and learn from there. I also know quite a bit of sign language, American Sign Language. Learning a language is really good for you if you have time and want something to do. So, I am working on a patchwork pullover. This was actually like the very first clothing garment that I made. It was a patchwork cardigan, like the Harry Styles cardigan that everybody was obsessed with like during quarantine. It's just that I was a little bit unaware of making clothes and coming up with the gauge and stuff, so it ended up being like a really big hook and really loose squares, and just the weight of it all made it so stretched out. It was like too big for my boyfriend to even wear. Like I could wear it as like a snuggie or something at home, but like going out, it was just like I was swimming in it. So like I couldn't wear it, I couldn't sell it, so it was just like laying in storage, and so I figured I should go ahead and take it apart and start over. So I am almost done with it. I'm just adding the borders onto it, and I am making it into a pullover this time. And I think I will just go ahead and sell it because, well, from 2 years ago, I'm kind of a different person. My fashion sense has changed a bit, and I just don't think that I would wear these colors as they are in my current wardrobe. I'm looking to kind of have a more consolidated, cohesive color scheme going on. So, I mean, I love these colors and I would wear it, but I just am trying to have a smaller wardrobe and things that go together a little bit better. So, yeah, that's what I'm working on. And I have a pumpkin spice iced latte that I made for myself. I use just regular vanilla syrup, sugar-free, but maybe they have pumpkin spice sugar-free, but they're usually not very good. So I don't know. And I didn't feel like buying something else, so I just dumped a bunch of pumpkin pie spice into one of the bottles of vanilla syrup, and it is surprisingly effective. You do have to like give the syrup a little shake before you pour it, but it works really well and it tastes really good. And it's got oat milk and an espresso shot and ice. Let's see. This episode, I'm just going to be doing a Q&A. I did want this episode to be one where I sit down with my dad and talk about him a little bit and the full-length movie that he produced. But for now, I did get a bunch of questions on Instagram for this episode, and I'm still waiting to figure out how I'm going to do that episode with my dad. So for now, this is the one that I'm going to do, and hopefully the one with my dad will be the next episode. So I hope you don't mind. I don't think that I promised it, but, you know, if you were looking forward to it, it's still gonna show up soon for you. I'm also trying to just be a little bit more casual on the podcast. I had tried to keep a nice structure going, but I found it making me really anxious. I was just worried about the things I was saying, or like that somebody might think that I'm weird or whatever, just way too in my head, you know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to get the concept of like not being embarrassed. Like it's not that I did anything embarrassing. It's just like, oh, what if that is embarrassing? What if something I said was embarrassing and I didn't know it? You know what I mean? But that's such a negative mindset, and I'm trying to move on past that. In other news, I also removed TikTok from my phone. Well, I downloaded it again just to post on it, but I deleted it for a while just because I was going on it too much to kill time or whatever. And most of us know that it is, designed to be so addictive and, just a constant feed of dopamine and stuff. And it's designed to keep you there. And the algorithm is very grabby and all of that. And it's just, it was making me feel very negative, putting those kinds of negative thoughts into my head, and stuff like that, aside from the whole fact that it shows you, unrealistic expectations for like appearances and environments and, people's looks in people's homes, and just looking at other people's faces way too much. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I could go on and on about that, or I'm sure there's plenty of other people who've talked about it, but I'm not going to get into all of that right now. But anyway, I just felt like I needed a little bit of a cleanse away from it. And so if you were wondering why I wasn't on there so much, that's why. I am still kind of contemplating whether I need it for my business or not. I know that a lot of my traffic comes from Etsy itself and my Instagram, so I'm not sure if TikTok is doing more harm than good for me. I know some people have found me on TikTok. People enjoy using TikTok and seeing me on there, but all things considered, I'm just kind of weighing my options there on that one. I think I would like to, have it occasionally, make some content, and then just, if I can stay off of it, then that's good. I was like one of the last people to even download TikTok. I think I downloaded it in like towards the end of 2021. It's been about a year and a couple of months now that I've had it. So, I knew from the beginning people would say, oh yeah, TikTok is so addicting, and oh, whatever, this and that. Oh, but it's funny. And so I was like, well, that doesn't sound like something I want to get into. But, people then said, oh, well, it's good for your business. People are blowing up. And so, I downloaded it, and I didn't blow up. I never did. A couple of videos got a little bit of a higher reach, but, I just barely reached 10K followers on there, which is great. Don't get me wrong. But, it was hard work and plenty of tears, and way too much time spent on it for non-business things, so pros and cons to it all. But anyway, yeah. And, so I have some holiday patterns, on my website. I have the Halloween patterns, as well as my pumpkin patchwork cardigan pattern, or it's actually garden patchwork because it has many different fruits and vegetables other than just pumpkins. But that one is great. I made one last November, and well, it's good for all year round. I also made like a strawberry patch cardigan in the spring, vegetable patch, pumpkin patch. It's a really fun pattern. It's like a granny square patchwork, but there is instructions in there to make the granny squares like an imitation square where it's actually just worked in rows. So you would like change colors every time you change to a new square. And so then it's actually, you end up with the full panel by the end of it instead of, 30 squares that you have to seam together. So that pattern is fun. And I also have the holiday cardigan pattern, which has 10 different graphics like polar bears, reindeers, pine trees, snowflakes, penguins, gingerbread men, snowmen, Christmas lights, candy canes. I think that's all of them. And so that one is basically just like my Halloween cardigan pattern. It's like these mini graphics, and then you can put them all over the cardigan in a row and stuff. That one's really fun. I think I'm going to make some vests with that this year. Okay, next. Oh yeah, my dog Moose. He's doing well. He is still just, he's really needing the training. I'm taking him to this training place and to see a trainer because like he's really good at home. He's a good listener. It's just I don't know, what do they call it? Excited dogs. He's an excited dog around like other people and other dogs. Like he finds that more important than what I'm saying. So like whenever we're in an environment like outside and another dog goes by, then he just goes crazy, like whines and tries to pull towards them because he wants to, like, it's not an aggression thing. It's just he wants to play or, meet somebody new. And so that's been difficult. And, because like I wanted to put him in like daycare and stuff, or like take him to a dog park and let him run around. But he can't do that right now because he's just too eager around the other dogs. So, we're working on that at the training facility and everything. But yeah, I mean, he's a good dog. It's just in that aspect, it's a little bit difficult. Okay, so I'll go ahead and start with some recommendations for you, and then we'll get into the Q&A. So something to eat. I have been enjoying just like plain fruits and veggies, except I prep them myself. I mean, you could get them, like, it's basically like when you go to the store and they have like carrot sticks or like cut up melon where you can purchase that, but it's always more expensive, and it's also like wrapped in these plastic boxes and stuff. But I've been trying to make a habit of just like rinsing off the vegetables and fruits as soon as I get home, and then like cutting them up into like serving size pieces. That way I can just like snack on them throughout the day. Because like sometimes, I don't know if this is weird or if it's a common experience, but sometimes I just like don't feel like washing a fruit at any given moment. Like say I want, a few berries, but I'd have to go wash them. Like, I don't know, sometimes my hands, maybe it's cold and I just don't want to put my hands under cold water or whatever. Sometimes I just feel like I don't want to get my hands wet. So, I don't know. Then I would tend to like go for something else, like almonds or something. But if I wash all the fruits and vegetables from the get-go, then it's super easy to just grab some, and then, they're not sitting around while I'm being picky and go bad, you know what I mean? So, that's it, just to like prep fruits and veggies. And then it's also nice, like when you're cooking, if you're cooking some pasta, you can just like throw in some cut up vegetables because they're already ready. Yeah, so something to watch, Avatar: The Last Airbender. I surprisingly did not watch this as a kid. My boyfriend did. He said he had it on DVD, and so the whole time I was watching it recently, he was like, he was like, oh, I know what happens. He was not spoiling it for me, but just, being funny. And so, yeah, that was a really nice show. I was like in the mood to watch an anime, but I was like, I don't know. I don't watch anime very often, but I was like in the mood to, I guess, just wanting to watch something that was like visually pleasing. But that was a nice show. I'm glad that I got to watch it and kind of fulfill that hole in my childhood, you know what I mean? And it was a nice show. It's 3 seasons, but it felt very long. It's got a lot, it's like, it's a simple kids show, but it's also got a lot of like mystical creatures and a lot of like political themes. It's about the four different like kingdoms of the elements, and so there's like a war going on and all of that. So it's like really political in a way too. So kids and adults alike can enjoy that. So something to listen to. I don't know if you've ever checked out the Spotify playlists, or you can search and find playlists that other people made, but I like to just sometimes go back to a random year, look up like hits of 2016 or like hits of 2009, you know what I mean? And like it's just it's like a time machine. It really takes you back. Like I don't know, the year, like you can look up the year when you were graduating middle school, or like your 5th grade year, and like really relive those memories. Because like I don't know about you, but I still have like a few songs from like long ago that I keep in my current rotation, but sometimes some are just like lost in the wind. You don't really think about them, you don't really hear them anymore, and then like it can really like trigger some memories in a good way or a bad way. Something I'm grateful for is having that dog training school nearby. It's very close, and I am thankful that I have the ability to take my dog there because he really needs it, and I don't want an untrained dog. So I'm glad that that is a resource that is available to me. And a review. This was a nice recent review on the Halloween cardigan pattern. She said, I've never crocheted in my life, but between this easy to follow pattern and YouTube, I was able to crochet a badass Halloween cardigan. Thank you so much for having a detailed pattern, including pictures. I'm in love. Thank you. She attached a photo as well, and it was a really neat piece. It was like kind of like half and half. One side was black, and then the ribbing and the details were in rainbow, and the other side was like rainbow with the details in black. It was really cool. Yeah. Okay, so we'll get into the Q&A now. I asked on Instagram for some questions. I said questions about anything crochet related or not, whether you listen to the show or not, because the question may be beneficial to somebody else. Let me find the first page. I have 3 pages of questions here, which is like, I don't know, 20 questions. Okay, and I also, I kind of looked at them as they were coming in, but I didn't really take down notes or think of them because I wanted to just answer them kind of organically and let the answers come to me as we go. So the first question is, what is your favorite place you've been / traveled to? This is a cool question. I've never traveled outside of the US, unfortunately. I would love to someday. In the US, let's see, I lived in Virginia for some time, and I lived in Colorado for some time, and I lived in California for some time. And outside of that, I have traveled to Maryland, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, Tennessee, Texas, and that's about it. I really liked South Lake Tahoe in California, or it's kind of like in between California and Nevada. If you saw the pictures that I took in the original Mabel Sweaters lineup, it was like out in the snow. That was in South Lake Tahoe. It was actually surprising that it was snowing there because nobody expected it to snow. It like snowed. It was raining really hard the day we went, and then we woke up and it was like snowing there. But they said like it had not been so flooded in ages, But that was a really nice place. It was just like a lake town. A lot of people, there's a lot of lake houses, and it's kind of like a touristy place. But it would be cool to live there. There's lots of trees and stuff. A lot of those other places that I mentioned, I was like under the age of 10 when I went, so it's kind of hard to remember. I guess I would have to say that was my favorite like vacation spot that I can recall. I really liked Colorado when I was visiting. I guess I just really like mountains and snow, and forests. I've enjoyed I went on a lot of field trips growing up in Virginia, in the Blue Ridge area. I went to Williamsburg one time. I was on a scholarship at this private school, for second and third grade. And we went to Williamsburg, which is kind of crazy, to bring a bunch of 8-year-olds to Williamsburg. But that was pretty cool. I remember I was in this kind of, I don't know, this courtroom, and they were like, oh yeah, George Washington sat there or something like that. So that was kind of cool. But it was really cool to go visit that place, Jamestown and Williamsburg. I remember I feel very fond memories of riding such a long trip in this nice big bus. It was dark out and everything. And Chicken Little was on, the bus had TVs. It was a really nice school, and so they had really nice buses and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I have not been one to travel very much. I would like to, but for now I haven't really been anywhere too exciting. Okay, so the next question is, sometimes I lose inspiration. What do you do to keep yourself inspired? I always write down my ideas so that I don't lose them. And I try to go in order of, it can feel very impulsive, oh, I just had this awesome idea. I really want to make it. And of course you can do that. But on a long-term scale, I think it's really nice to go in order because, the older things you might tend to be less excited about. So if I keep those fresh ideas forward, then it's something to keep looking forward to. Hold on, I lost my yarn. Yeah, it's something to look forward to, and I like to get inspiration from just whatever current fashion trends. I like to also think practical, is this trendy or is this timeless? You know what I mean? Is this just one of those micro trends that everybody is doing, or is this something that can actually stand the test of time? And would somebody be wearing this, 1, 3, 5, 10 years from now? I mean, there's no way to know for sure, but just as a general rule of thumb, I'm trying to think if there's any other advice I have for this question. I don't know. I'll let you know if I think of something. What has having a small business made you learn about yourself? Well, it has made me learn that I have the ability to write patterns. I have been crocheting since I was 10, but I had never written my own pattern. But when I started to make clothes, I didn't even follow a pattern to make clothes. I was just okay, let me just take a look at the sweaters that I own and kind of figure out from there what I need to do. And so then people were asking me, oh, do you have a pattern for this? And I was well, no, but I guess I could just write down my steps, So then I write down my steps and then, just kind of format it to how a pattern is laid out, every step by step and the materials needed and all of that. So, I learned that I had that ability, and um I don't know. I've always been like a very structured person. Like I like to plan things out and like set goals and stuff. So that has been very important to me in my business. But I am learning to do that a little bit less. There's always a fine line of balance in everything. And I think that I might have been doing too much of that and stressing myself out, for no reason. Time can wait for you. You know what I mean? Like I was the one setting these goals and then stressing out about them. Like it's not like a school test or something where you have to be ready at a certain date. It was like I was the one causing all my stress. Like it was all internal. So I am learning to kind of chill out with that. Also learning that I'm a little bit more shy than I thought. I mean, I guess I always knew I was shy, but I don't know. I have a hard time, reaching out in the community. I see a lot of people like making friends and meeting up, and I don't know if I would want to do that. I do just tend to keep to myself, and I have to remind myself to like comment on stuff. You know what I mean? Like I've always been one to like look and not speak, and so I have to remind myself like I'm here, I'm running a business, I need to like comment on people's stuff and like let them know what I think. I see something and I'm like, oh, that's gorgeous, that must have taken forever, and like, oh, how creative, how unique, but then I fail to write it down on a comment, and so it's like I have to constantly remind myself to do that. Yeah. Anything more positive? I think, I don't know, it has just made me feel very strong and confident in my creative abilities. Just owning a business in general. Like a lot of people think that they would love to do that. And, I always thought, well, how cool would it be to own my own business one day? And, I was able to make it happen. So, it makes me feel very proud of myself. Next question. Who designs all of my logos? They're very pretty. Thank you very much. I do design them myself. My boyfriend got me an iPad a long time ago because I told him how I always wanted to do like digital drawings and digital paintings and stuff. And so I was able to put that to use. It's just an iPad and an Apple Pencil, and I use the program Procreate. I just sketch it out a little bit and then I go over it with the tools on there. And yeah, I don't know. I'm satisfied with them. They do look like handmade. I think that's kind of what I was going for though. I'm sure I could hire somebody if I wanted a more professional feel, but that's not really what I want at this time. I like them how they are. And yeah, I also design some stickers in the same style, which are available on my website. They're mainly like animals wearing sweaters and stuff. Next question. How did you first start learning to crochet? What was your first project? I first started to learn how to crochet because at my dad's, it's an old family house, but on my dad's side, that house, we were cleaning out one of the attics and I found like a basket of yarn and crochet hooks, and I'm like, what's all this? And so then my grandma was there and she was like, oh, that was my mom's crochet, and let me see if I still remember how to do it. And she didn't really remember it, but luckily, YouTube was around at the time. But, she was able to teach me like how to do a slip knot and like a chain, I think, and maybe a single crochet. And, from there I was already like excited about it. And I was like, oh, this is really cool, to make something out of a string. So my first project that I wanted to attempt was like a loose beanie, I guess, because my dad had dreads and he always wore these like beanies to hold the dreadlocks in, and so I wanted to make him one, but it was really hard to figure out because it's like working in the round, and that was a little bit too complicated to figure out at first for me. So I think, or I don't know if I mentioned I was 10 or 9, but yeah, it was hard to read the pattern for like working in the round and stuff. So I think from there I just started making like a few squares, like pot holders and like blankets for my stuffed animals. I wish I could remember what my first actual finished project was, because I wouldn't really consider plain squares, my first project. It was probably an amigurumi, like a plushie, because that's what I made for years and years, like plushies and scarves and stuff, until I started making sweaters, 2 years ago. But the first 8 years or 10 years or whatever, I was just making like plushies and stuff. So I'm sure that's what one of my first projects was, probably like a really small amigurumi or something like that. One of the questions was, you are so talented, and that's very sweet. Thank you. Any other hobbies other than crochet, like roller skating or something like that? I would like to roller skate. The main thing is that I'm very scared of falling and like breaking my knees or something. I'm really scared of surgery, and I've never broken a bone. So it would be a shame to do that for the first time at 23 years old. So I would like to learn to roller skate. I've been to like roller rinks and stuff, but not for a long time. I knew how to ice skate for a while. Living in Colorado, I learned how to do that. But yeah, I mainly stick to indoors. I can't really do much physical activity because I have asthma. But I like to draw. Like I said, I have been practicing more digitally lately. So, I've designed some stickers and doing like digital drawings, but pen and paper, pencil and paper was always my thing growing up too. I spend a lot of time cleaning and straightening up. I just really like to keep a clean space. I wouldn't really call that a hobby, but for the amount of time I spend on it, I would say it. So I like to bake. I like to just talk to people. I like talking. So I call my grandma a lot and we talk. I have 2 cats and then my new dog, so I like to play with the animals. I like to go check out thrift stores. I always check for yarn and like magazines, clothes and stuff. I'm constantly finding things to donate to the thrift store. I like to keep things rotating. So, if I pick up some new stuff at the thrift store, I'll try to like get rid of some while I'm at it. I really like to kind of like make my own stuff. Like, now I can't think of anything. I don't know, like repurposing stuff, going and picking flowers and making like a little flower bouquet. I don't know, I printed out like some artwork to frame and put in the bathroom. I'm learning how to knit. I'm about to go on vacation. I would like to spend more time traveling. I'm about to go to Virginia. I would like to spend more time traveling. But it has been hard with COVID, and I haven't ever traveled out of the country. But yeah. I don't know. I think that's all. I like to cook and bake and try new foods. Okay, next question. Oh, I was thinking about this one when I saw it. Would you ever consider becoming a vegan? I assume that you're vegan, whoever is asking this. And the answer is that I am partially vegan. I was actually vegan for 5 years, on and off, 5 or 6 years. And I don't have anything negative to say about it at all. It was a great time. To anybody who wants to argue that veganism is unhealthy, expensive, or difficult, it is not at all. It was actually a lot cheaper than a regular diet. It's a lot healthier, and it is super easy. Like I was never into like the whole like fake cheese, substitute meats and stuff. I would just like have like oatmeal with like nuts and berries, granola on top, toast and peanut butter, or apples and peanut butter, rice and beans and vegetables, salads with nuts and beans, baked potatoes, sweet potatoes, things like that. Just really easy, simple meals. And it was just really delicious. I never really found myself missing anything else, like I didn't really care. I just kind of kept to myself, I guess. I didn't really like associate myself with people who were like eating other stuff. I guess I was like 15 when I decided to go vegan the first time. I remember I was living with my uncle and like step cousins and stuff. And it was like one night, veganism was really popular back then. This was like 2014. And so like there's a lot of like vegan YouTubers and stuff. And here's the thing about it though, is that I went into it for the wrong reasons. Like I went into it because it was popular. It was a little bit in vain, I think. I was like more concerned about like my skin. As a teenager, I was like breaking out and I heard that veganism could help. And like growing up, I would always eat because I was bored and like eating just like for comfort. And so it was like hard to differentiate for myself, like when I was full or when I was just like bored and would want to keep eating and stuff. So like, I don't know. I went into it for like all of those reasons and just like, of course I learned about like the horrors of like animal agriculture and like the environmental issues that it causes. And I of course respect that. And I have a lot of wisdom from that. But I don't know. I went into it for all of those reasons. And because I'm not very active, like I was eating more of a high carb, low fat vegan diet, but I was just eating like literally raw vegetables and fruits all day. And so I think I was kind of like becoming weaker just because of the way this was like my errors, like of course there's athletes that are vegan, you know what I mean? But like I was not being very active and not providing myself with ample protein. And so I think I was like losing muscle mass and stuff. And I was just, sitting around all day. And I think that I was causing the problems. And then aside from that, when I say off and on, this is because I ran into some complicated living situations where for a while I was living with like friends and their families and stuff. And it was like not the time to be picky and choosy about what I was eating. If they were gracious enough to let me live in their space and eat their food, I'm not going to say, well, you put cheese on the pasta, so I can't eat this because I'm vegan. You know what I mean? Like I was just like, I'm just going to eat this because this, I need to eat, and they are being nice enough to offer it to me. And so then after a while, I was feeling a little more settled and able to purchase my own groceries. And so then I made the choice to go vegan again. But of course I was in a long-term relationship with my boyfriend who's not vegan, and that doesn't necessarily bother me. I chose to be with him, and I wasn't vegan at the time. I knew him before I was even vegan. So I'm not going to expect him to change his ways. Of course I've offered him things and whatever, but he's going to make his own choices. And so the thing about it is that after a while I was finding that more food was ending up in the trash just because I was being very compulsive about my veganism. If he had leftover, a half a bowl of leftover macaroni and cheese, I was like, oh, well, I can't eat this because I'm vegan, so then it goes into the trash. And it's that's not very vegan, is it? And so I think for me at this time, it just makes more sense for me to help him eat foods that he can't finish, because he is in his own way a picky eater. So he won't eat past the point of being full, and he won't eat leftovers and stuff. And so well, sometimes he will. It just depends what it is. But if there's a situation where he needs help to finish something, then I should just go ahead and help. Or sometimes I would be in a situation where somebody would be nice and gift me something. They would give me a treat as a present, and then I would turn it down because it's not vegan. Or I would go to a restaurant and order something, and then they put sour cream on it or cheese, and then I send it back because it's not vegan, and then it just goes into the trash. So it's not very smart to just throw things away because they're vegan. If you have a food allergy or something, that's different. But this was my choice, and the food has already been served on the plate, and so there's no going back at that point. It's just something to accept. And I heard a quote one time, if it's free, then it's vegan, if you, so sometimes you'll order food and then they'll give you a free cookie or something on the side. And then it's well, they've already given it to you. And so then what are you going to do? Throw it away? I think it would be better to honor that dairy and honor that food and go ahead and eat it. Because it's already there in front of you. You know what I mean? So, but all the things that I learned when I was vegan, every day I still make vegan choices. Most of my snacks are vegan. Most of my meals are vegan. Most days I don't eat meat. Most days I'm more vegetarian or vegan. And I still am very conscientious about where I spend my money and what I spend it on, as far as foods and stuff. So, and if all of us were a little more vegan, I mean, that would be better than just a few of us being purely 100% compulsively, obsessively vegan, and maybe there will come a point where I would like to go vegan again. But for now, I think, I'm still living with my boyfriend, and, sometimes he leaves a lot of pizza crust on the plate. And so I'll go ahead and eat it because otherwise it's going to go in the trash. You know what I mean? Or, the cheese is going to go bad, so we need to eat it. But yeah, I mean, I think that I learned a lot going vegan. And also, by the way, for me, at least, that whole experiment, I think that my acne was just hormonal and generational. Veganism didn't affect it at all. And same with as far as eating vegan as a diet, Oreos and potato chips are vegan too. So I think it's just, at the end of the day, it comes out down to whatever you choose to eat and how much of it is the real key. Veganism is not a magical diet. It is, at the end of the day, just something to do for the animals and for the environment. And I am at least aware of that when I do make my choices. So I'm very grateful that 15-year-old me made the decision to go vegan. I learned a lot, and I tried a lot of new foods that I probably wouldn't have tried if I hadn't gone vegan. And it was also just kind of a a self-control thing, like a way to prove my point. Because when I decided to go vegan at 15, everybody was like, oh, sure, like, we'll see how long this lasts. But, it lasted for a good 3 years, 100% vegan, just to prove them wrong. I was like, look, like, when I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. But yeah. Are you any good at other wool crafts? I don't know. I am learning knitting. Other wool crafts, I'm trying to think. I don't know. I've never tried needle felting. I've never really done embroidery. I guess I've embroidered a couple of things, or like cross stitch. I haven't tried that. I would like to though. I played a lot with felt when I was younger. I would get felt and make little plushies out of it, stuffed animals and stuff. One time I started making, I always came up with like creative concepts when I was a kid. My family would sit at home and, the phrase couch potatoes. Well, I came up with the idea to make little potato dolls like out of fabric, and I sewed them and stuffed them, and I made them like kind of look like us. Like the blonde people had like a lighter color brown and the brunette people had like a darker color brown, and then I would like match the color of the potato's eyes to each family member, and then I called them couch potatoes. And my dad had a hot sauce business, and so I made a little like habanero pepper out of felt for him as like a little mascot, and I think he still uses that original like idea as his logo. Or I don't know, maybe it was his logo and then I replicated it with the plushie, but yeah, I don't know. I made like a bunch of little like keychains, I think, and then he was able to like kind of sell that as like a bonus add-on when people would buy like a case of hot sauce. So that was really fun. But yeah, that's all the wool crafts that I can think of at the moment. Can you tell us something about how you make graphs for your clothes with pixels? Yeah, I just use Procreate. I just like put a graph in there and fill it in, but stitchfiddle.com is a lot faster to do that. I don't know if you mean like how do I come up with the idea or actually how I make the graphs. I don't know. When I come up with the idea, I just kind of think about the shape of what I want to make, and then I just make it. I also consider like the size. Like I know that with my gauge, like every 2 rows comes out to about 1 inch. So like if I want to make like a 5-inch graphic, then I need to make sure that it's less than 10 rows tall. And that's all depending on the gauge, like the size of the yarn and the hook that you're using and stuff. But for most of my projects, it's been that same gauge. So I know that a graphic needs to not extend to a certain height and width. So that's how I know how many pixels to use. But yeah, I hope that answered your question. Have you ever had problems with best friends, and how did you handle them? To be honest, I think that I was the problem most of the time. I have never really had it easy finding friends, and I think that I have always kind of like adapted myself to impress people or like make them feel like we're a good fit, you know what I mean? And so I have this tendency, I mean, I don't think so much anymore, I haven't really had that many friends since I've been in school, but like in school I would tend to like have just like one best friend at a time and then kind of like leave them for somebody new, unfortunately, which was a really not nice thing to do. There's one instance that I can remember. This was in middle school in 6th grade. So there was this girl that I had been friends with since like 1st grade. And so, we were always best friends and stuff. And like I said before, like I went to a private school during like second, third, and fourth grade. And then I was taken out and homeschooled for fifth grade. So sixth grade was like my first experience back in the public school system since like first grade. And so, I was in sixth grade and I was like trying to get back into like making friends. And my friend was there. My childhood friend was there. But then this girl, she was like, her family was wealthy and she was popular. And she took a liking to me. And so, of course, I was like, oh, well, how cool is this, And so the only catch was that she didn't like the girl that I was originally friends with. So, I was like, oh, okay. This was like sixth grade was what, 2011? I don't know. People like to make fun. Like, this makes no sense, but she would call my original friend. She was like, oh, she's a weirdo and she's a lesbian. Like, how can you even be a lesbian when you're like 11? You know what I mean? Like, I mean, sure, some people know that, but for the most part, it's like, we're kids, you know what I mean? Like, and that's not even an insult, but she basically, the point is, she thought she was like weird and whatever. So she was like, you shouldn't be friends with her. So I'm like, okay. Well, so then I stopped hanging out with my original friend during school hours, but then I would like call her up at home. I would say, well, come on over and like you can hang out here with me, or like you can come with me to church and we can hang out at church. And then she was like, eventually she had enough and she was like, look, I want to be friends with you, but like not to be hidden, not to be like this secret friend, like hanging out outside of school. And I just didn't listen. I wanted to still be friends with the cool girl. And unfortunately, it bit me in the ass, because after that year, after sixth grade, my original friend moved out of state, and I came to the realization that the cool girl was very toxic, like she would pressure me into doing like embarrassing stunts, or like showing off in class, like annoying the teachers. I was a good student, but she was like peer pressuring me into like doing these things just so that she could have a laugh, And so then I realized that that was such a toxic behavior, and that I was only really being friends with her because she was cool and she had like a big house and stuff. And so then in seventh grade, I was like, I don't want to be friends with you anymore. And she was like, whatever. And so then I had no friends at all for seventh grade, and I sat alone every day for lunch by the teachers. And then in eighth grade, I made a couple of good friends, but then I moved out of state after that year too. And then the same kind of thing to a lesser degree in high school. Like in high school in ninth grade, I didn't know anybody because this was a new school. And so this one girl in class, I asked her if I could go out to lunch with her, and she said, yeah. And then, we lived kind of near each other, so we would walk home together. But then I became friends with like this new person, and for some reason I just didn't know how to balance like different relationships, which is, a hard thing to sit here and say, but I think that I was mainly the problem with the friends that I had. And if I could go back, I would definitely handle that differently. There was no reason that I couldn't balance those different things, especially in high school. That one was totally my fault, to just like kind of turn my back on the original person. Like there was no discourse between those two people, you know what I mean? So unfortunately, I think I was just a little bit of an awkward child and unsure how to like handle myself in social situations. And another time, since then I've learned to kind of stand my ground. I'm like, I'm not going to let somebody else take advantage of me. And so, post COVID and stuff, I went on to Bumble BFF and like found some friends, and there were a couple people who like were interested in like getting to know me because I was like over 21 and they wanted like alcohol and stuff. And I said, look, I don't drink and I would not do that for you even if I did drink. So you can find somebody else to do that. And I put myself before the friendship, you know what I mean? Like I was like, I'm going to stand my ground and say no. And if they don't want to still be friends, then that's fine. You know, I'll get over it and I'll find somebody who's more worth my time. But luckily, you know, that didn't seem to bother them. They were like, okay. You know, so I think it's important to stand your ground, I guess, would be my best answer to this question. And if somebody is causing you such a problem in your friendship where, like the fight can't be resolved, or like if they're not willing to put forth effort, like if you're both the problem and then they're not willing to put forth the effort, with you, then maybe you could consider finding a different friend, you know, if they're not worth the time. You know, I think friendships are really similar to relationships in that, you know, if whoever's the problem needs to work on themselves, you know, there's no compensation for that you need to do for somebody else's issue. Okay, another question. How long have you been crocheting? I kind of went over this before, but it was 2009 when I learned how to crochet. 13 years, I guess. Where do you get your inspiration? I also kind of went over this one. I think, okay, here I have a new answer. A lot of the times, like I said, I like to look at yarn at thrift stores. So sometimes I like to just go and like look at my yarn. A lot of times people, I always see jokes in the crochet community about like buying more yarn and buying more yarn. Because I think what people do is they get inspiration before they buy the yarn. But I like to challenge myself to look at my yarn and then get inspiration from that. You know what I mean? Like see what I have. And then sometimes like the colors or the textures will form an idea for me. Oh, here's a good question. How do you store all your stuff? I've been doing this a year and it is getting out of hand. It does get out of hand. Crochet can be very bulky. And you might not like this answer, but I have a whole closet dedicated just to my crochet stuff. I don't know if you're selling your stuff or if you're just keeping it all. For me, at least, I'm selling some of it. And in fact, I actually have some of it in another closet. I have one small closet in the guest room that's just, it's got my yarn on one side and then like the stuff that I'm selling. And then in my personal closet is where I keep like my personal garments that I made for myself. But I would recommend like building up, not out, like getting shelves and more shelves. The closet that I have has shelves built in, but I have shelves on the bottom floor too. You know, like cubbies. Like vests and tank tops you could hang. Sweaters you should fold. And use up the yarn that you have so that you're not using all this storage space for yarn. And yeah, I would just say you have to sell it or get rid of it. Like you could rotate it out, like put your summer stuff away in the winter and put your winter stuff away in the summer. That way it's not constantly taking up space. I mean, I don't know how much storage space you have. I don't have any kind of outdoor storage. I don't have like a garage or something like that. So all of what I have is just here in my apartment. So yeah, or you could store some of it with like a family member maybe. What are some upcoming designs you're working on? Right now, I am still trying to work through some of the yarn that I have. I am fixing up this patchwork sweater. And then also I'm going to the very next thing that I'm going to be working on is a knitting project. The Cloud Cardi by Art by Carolise. I'm so excited. I'm nervous. I'm flying to Virginia for 6 days, and I'm going to bring it along. And I'm a little bit nervous because I'm still a newbie with knitting, and so I'm like, is a plane and like traveling the best like circumstance to be bringing something I'm so unfamiliar with? But I kind of want to challenge myself, and I'm going to do like a tan cardigan with white clouds, off-white clouds. I think it'll look really nice. And then when I originally designed my holiday cardigan, I made 10 swatches with the different graphics. And so I still have those swatches. I think I'm going to turn those into like a patchwork cardigan as well, or a sweater. I think that will be cool because it's like one swatch of polar bears and one swatch of pine trees and so on. And then I think I'm also going to make some Christmas vests. And after that, I think I'm going to do like another once over of my yarn stash and like see if I can just make some like random things. I don't know. I have like a lot of cool yarns and cool buttons, and like when the main focus of a piece is like the color work of it or the pattern, then I tend to like just stick with like regular buttons usually. I have a few, I don't know if anybody saw when I made the pumpkin patchwork cardigan or the vegetable cardigan, I used like these little vegetable shaped buttons, and I still have a couple of those. I have like some grapes and bananas, and so I've been really wanting to make something with those, like a little like monkey sweater or something with like banana buttons. So yeah, and that's another way I get my inspiration is like if I find like buttons. I also have a lot of beads. I want to make stuff with beads, but I think that would be best for like summer with like thin yarn. I don't know. At this time last year, I had so many ideas like for the future, like lineup of things, but now I just have a bunch of like leftover yarn and buttons and stuff that I need to get through. What is your advice for someone who wants to sell their finished crochet goods? I would recommend, first of all, taking good, well-lit photos and like styling them well, and like, modeling them well, so that people can really see like what it would look like on, and also like hanging up on like a nice hanger. I've never sold anything in like a physical marketplace, and I don't know if that's what you mean. But I think that might actually be more helpful. I guess it depends, because a lot of people, like if you're talking about selling like sweaters and stuff, that can be expensive. And so sometimes people don't come to a market prepared with $200, $300 to buy something like that. So like I think for a market, like hats and bralettes and stuff might go off a little bit better. But then again, I don't know. I think it's something to be said for being able to like go and see the item in person and feel it and hold it and try it on. So I don't know if that would help sell. My things, honestly, I don't sell that many things, like there's only so many sweaters that I can make in a month, and they don't fly off the shelves. I still have some of the first things that I made and things that I made a year ago. It just seems to be kind of like random luck when something sells. So I don't know that I have too many. I would just suggest like really taking care to do nice and neat stitches and lay it out really smooth. So a lot of times people take photos of things and they look really wrinkled, but you just have to like go over it several times with your hand to smooth it out. And you can lay out like plants or something next to it to make it look really nice. But I think that the key is all in the, the photos. Like go online and like look at your favorite like clothing store and see how nice their photos are. Any advice on finishing big projects? Yes, I would say make sure that you are weaving in your ends as you go. That's one of the biggest things with big projects, is that by the end of it you have all these ends to weave in, or like pieces to like sew together, and that's never the fun part, you know. So I would say, like, usually when I make something, I weave in all the ends of each piece. Like, I make a sleeve and then weave the ends, and then I make another sleeve and weave the ends, and then, you know, you can start to assemble it as you go. And then aside from that, I try to only have like one work in progress going at a time, like one or two, maybe, depends, like, I don't know. But definitely like not more than a few. And so if I decide, like, if I can look at something and say, am I really going to finish this or not? And if not, then am I willing to take it apart? Like, am I willing to take this apart, or should I just get through it and finish it? You know what I mean? Because, like, if you're not going to finish it, then you should take it apart and use that yarn for something else. Because then otherwise you're going to have to, like, cut the yarn. Like, if you want that yarn, you're going to have to cut it. And then you're really less likely to finish the project. So I would say to try to have minimal things going at once and just, like, finish one thing at a time. Because then if you have something new that you're looking forward to, tell yourself, okay, well, I'm just going to finish up this sweater over the next couple of nights, and then I can work on this new exciting thing. And on top of that, I have a new sweater that's finished. You know what I mean? So, like, it's kind of like a win-win. It just takes a little bit of, like, determination and, like, self-control, you know? Okay, last two questions. What are some of your favorite ways to take care of yourself after a hard day / task / event? I think maybe I could do better at taking care of myself. I like to come home and, like, clean up, kind of like reset my space, you know, like put things away and straighten up. Like, I have to do that before I can relax. And then I like to assess myself, like, am I hungry? Am I thirsty? Like, do I want to take a shower? Do I want to brush my teeth? And then a lot of times I just go to sleep. You know what I mean? Like, there's no better relaxation than sleeping. That's like the ultimate off switch, you know? Sometimes I'm just so exhausted I go to sleep. But otherwise, you know, just fulfilling my basic needs of, like, having some water and taking a shower or whatever, and then just to do what I like, kind of sit in silence, sit by myself, or watch some TV, get comfortable, like, with a blanket and pillow and stuff, and, like, relax my bones, I think is what I would like to do. And this question, when I saw this, it felt very urgent. So I think that's why felt like doing this episode now. So I hope that it's not too late to be answering this. But what do you do when you get a second chance signed? Someone who didn't think they'd get one. This question is just so emotional to me. The first short answer that comes to mind is listen more and do less. There's this poem. Let me think about it for a minute. There once was a wise old owl who lived in an oak. The more he saw, the less he spoke. The less he spoke, the more he heard. Why can't we all be like that wise old bird? I remember my grandpa told me that poem many years ago. I've always been a talker. That's probably why he was telling me that, you know, like, shut up and stop talking, child. But I think that it really resonates because a lot of times we are in like go, go, go mode and like always trying to find something to do. And like, I know for me in my relationships, I'm always wanting to do something, you know what I mean? Like doing something for the person or like getting something for them. And it's like, isn't this good enough? Like, you should be happy now. Like, I made you a sandwich. Like, but sometimes they just need you to listen. You know what I mean? I don't know what your situation is, but I think that poem is very broad and can be used in many situations. And I think the fact that you are getting a second chance is like, this is your time to like listen, you know, like listen and learn and figure out what went wrong the first time. Like, you don't need to stress about like doing something to like make it better this time. I think you should listen and take it slow. Like, I feel like sometimes I'm in such a rush to like fix something when what really needs to happen is to do less in general. You know, like I find myself like planning and planning and planning, and then I'm like, why am I so stressed? Like, I'm running out of time, but I've just spent 20 minutes planning, you know? I could have taken 20 minutes to like sit and like relax, like, and then I would be less stressed, you know what I mean? So I think sometimes we need to do less and be more, you know what I mean? Okay, well, I hope that helped you, and I hope that helped answer all the rest of your questions. And if you left a question for us and aren't listening back, well, I appreciate that as well, because hopefully somebody will have found your question and my answer very valuable. So thank you so much for listening. The cover art was drawn by me on Procreate, as I said. The intro and outro music was done by my boyfriend. Check out my YouTube for video episodes of this podcast and free crochet tutorials. Visit autumnolive.com to shop crochet pieces, patterns, and free patterns as well. Follow my Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, Etsy, and Ribbler, all at Autumn Olive Crochet. And you can find this podcast on Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts. And you can email in regards to this show at the Olive Orchard Podcast at gmail.com. And if you listen to the end, thank you very much. You'll know that I leave you with a little life hack. And this week, I'm going to tell you, when you finish a jar of pickles, you can just fill it back up with cucumbers and have tasty fresh pickles in about 4 days. Okay, thank you.